Hi there. I have missed a couple days of my BABW profiles, but as you can hear from my voice, I have been severely under the weather. But I'm back. Every day this month, I'm doing a profile of another BABW, Badass Black Woman for Black History Month, and today we're going to be talking about Lugenia Burns Hope. Born in St. Louis, Missouri, but at a young age moved to Chicago with her family after her father died. She studied briefly at the Chicago Art Institute, the Chicago School of Design, the Chicago Business College, but she had to give up schooling to become a breadwinner for the household. She was, while she was there, really involved in a number of causes. She was the first black secretary to the board of directors of King's Daughters, which was a charity organization for the sick, the needy, the poor. She moved to Atlanta eventually with her husband. Her husband became the first black president of Atlanta University. While she was there, though, in 1906, there was a horrific race massacre in Atlanta, known as one of the most sensational race riots, which were almost always massacres. The city had been whipped into a racial fury by a lot of irresponsible, false reporting by newspapers there. And Hoke Smith at one point says, "We will control the Negro peacefully if we can, but with guns if we must." About the violence in Atlanta, Lugenia said a few things. She said, "Negroes were quite unsuspecting that their white friends had planned to destroy them. The Negroes will never forget or forgive the shock of realizing that their white friends had betrayed them." She also said, "Out of a clear sky, the white people began kicking, beating. They would stop the streetcars, pull the Negroes out to beat them. These white people knew how they had treated the Negro all the while. Now they feared retribution. The Negro man went home, sat in the door with his gun across his knees, and was prepared to die protecting his home and family." Out of her shock and rage after the violence, she decided to take action. She started the Neighborhood Union in 1908. It was the very first female social welfare agency for blacks in the city of Atlanta. And she was an incredible organizer and administrator. She got students at Morehouse to conduct house-to-house surveys, very detailed demographic surveys, detailing what it was every house needed, so she could figure out what was the best way to help neighborhoods. She divided the city into zones. They raised the money to build playgrounds, to build kindergartens, childcare. They lobbied successfully to get a new school building there, raise the salary of black teachers. Streets were paved, lights and sewers were repaired and installed, 40 houses were repaired. Repairs done everywhere. For 6 months, they spent relatively scientifically investigating and inspecting all the 12 black schools that were in the city. And then they lobbied to, with a lot of detail, they lobbied to improve the conditions of those schools. Here's a picture of one of the neighborhood union houses. They had cleanup campaigns. They also opened tuberculosis clinics, and you can see some of the nurses here. Because of her incredible success as an organizer, she was appointed by the YWCA to be Special War Work Secretary, national supervisor of the YWCA's Black Hostess House program. But she became angry because the YWCA didn't allow black women to have any autonomy. All of the supervisors, always all of the leaders were white women that were telling them how things had to be run, who had to be in charge. She said what that policy amounted to was that black women of a community cannot have an association except as a branch of the white association, and they must be governed by the will of the white woman in initiating such an organization. She became determined to put black women on an equal footing with white women in the YWCA, and it was an epic battle. She challenged the competence of the white female field secretary. She petitioned to get black representation on many of the local boards. She told the leaders at the YWCA that black women would be happy to return to their churches and their own organizations before they would, let white women rule over them and control them. She was part of the Urban League, the Commission on Interracial Cooperation, the Association for Southern Women for the Prevention of Lynching, many, many others. After the Great Flood of 1927, she was appointed to Herbert Hoover's Colored Commission. She was working with the Red Cross. She became the first vice president of Atlanta's NAACP chapter. She lectured all over the place, nationally, especially for the National Council of Negro Women. She organized, also importantly, a social service institute at Morehouse, and that eventually turned into the Atlanta School of Social Work. She was at the founding session of the National Council of Negro Women that was led by Mary McLeod Bethune. She was active in fighting her whole life. She died in 1947, and her ashes were released from the tower of Morehouse College. Lugenia Burns Hope, a BABW. Have a great one, and, be kind.